And without doubt, indubitably beyond question, Roni Savage is my favourite speaker. This is her 5th speech, and her task is body language. Now, body language does have reason. It's about her stance, how she holds herself. It's about how she moves around the platform and uses the space. It's about the gestures that she makes. And, yes, the facial expressions that she uses. Like I am doing now, it involves eye contact, carefully and well used. And she will endeavour to achieve all of this in a smooth and a natural way. This has reasons. If she achieves all of this, you will feel her interaction with you, and that is her goal. She wants to do this using minimal notes, and she is very, very determined that she will do this at a controlled pace, not too fast and not too slow. It is now my great pleasure, very shortly, to welcome Roni with her speech, most appropriately for the objectives that she has, entitled Crying, Weakness or Strength. With her speech, entitled Crying, Weakness or Strength, please welcome Roni Speaker5.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests tonight. I wondered why we had that on our chairs when we came in today. Was that because of the juicing? Exactly. My speech tonight, crying, strength or weakness. I'm just going to try my hand at a bit of acting. I'd like you to imagine 2 scenarios. So the first scenario is you've walked into a room and there's somebody sat there in a chair, their head in their palm, and they're crying. Hold that thought. Go in the second room. Somebody else sat there on a chair, but this time around, they're laughing. Loud as ever, smiling at you as you walk into the room, seemingly excited to be there. What is your perception of those 2 people that you've just seen? In my opinion, my assumption perhaps, is that the person in the first room, in the first scenario, you'd consider, one would suspect that they were in a sort of sad state of mind. So they're unhappy, they're crying for a reason, they've had some bad news perhaps, they're unhappy about something. In the second room, that person that was laughing, smiling as you walked in, one would assume that they're happy. They're in a joyous mood, they've just had some good news perhaps, and they're happy. Is that right? Mm-hmm. But is that really true? Is that person in the second room really happy? Or are they just hiding their true emotions, hiding away their true feelings? Can we really understand what somebody feels internally through their body language? Or can people mask their true feelings and hide it away so we can't see it? Through my speech tonight, I've got 2 questions that I'm trying to answer myself, and I'd like to share that with you. One of those questions is crying a strength or a weakness? Second question is, can we really judge how somebody truly feels inside just from the way that they look externally, from their body language? Does the body really speak, or can we pretend externally? Hopefully, we can answer these questions after my speech tonight. To answer these questions, I'm going to discuss two main points that I've done some research on. First point is crying in men and women. Is there a difference? Is there a stereotype? Do men cry differently from women? I'm trying to engage with you tonight. The second one is crying in terms of sort of expressing our emotions, our internal feelings. Can you really judge how somebody feels through their body language? As most of you who have listened to me before know, I'm surrounded by men. I live and work with men. I grew up with 4 brothers, no sisters, my dad, which is an interesting childhood. Now I've got my husband, and I've got 3 sons of my own, so no daughters. So I'm constantly surrounded by men. In my work as well, I'm an engineering geologist, so I work with men. We'll have a discussion afterwards, perhaps. I work with men as an engineering geologist, so I spend a lot of time around men. In my experience, which, as I've just explained, might be slightly skewed because I've spent a lot of time around men, in my experience, I think when women cry, it's considered more acceptable than it is when a man cries. My experience, maybe wrong, maybe right. I mean, even in the more enlightened times that we live in, I mean, it's 2016, but women are still considered as potentially the weaker sex compared to men. I've got blank faces. I'm not sure if you agree or disagree, you've just got blank faces. But when a woman cries, potentially she's considered, it's more acceptable because we're the weaker sex, potentially. I've got a nod there. Yeah. When a man cries, on the other hand, he's potentially a wuss, isn't he? He's not manly enough. I mean, I've heard, you know, like I said, I've got 3 boys, and I've heard, you know, one of the boys cry, somebody might say to him, "Oh, come on, man up. Why are you crying? You're not a girl, come on, man up." What does that mean? What does it mean to man up? Does that mean that because they're boys or because you're a man, it's not acceptable to cry, but as a woman, it's more acceptable? Is that actually true? Is it? I mean, I've got to be honest, at work, I've never seen a man cry. I mean, I work predominantly with men, but there are a few women around me. And I have seen a couple of women cry, you know, a woman can burst into a room because something's not going according to plan, and she would cry. But the men, it just never happens. Is this because they've sort of conceded to the stereotype? Or is it because of the sort of scientific makeup of the men, because of the hormones, it's different and they don't cry for that reason? The other question I've asked myself is, do women who want to be perceived as being strong, do they hide their emotions, and for that reason they don't cry in a place of work? I'm asking all these questions, all these rhetorical questions, looking at your facial expressions, body language for a good response, but nothing yet. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. In your opinion, would you consider a woman crying in a place of work more acceptable to a man crying in a place of work? Just imagine it's dark in here, nobody can see you. Put your hands up. Do you agree?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, agreeing with my hypothesis so far. Would you consider it being a weakness to cry at work? Not at home, at work. Would you?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Seems as though just people in this room are sort of agreeing with my stereotype. I mean, it takes me very quickly to the second point of my discussion. Does crying entirely reflect our internal emotions? My opinion is that it doesn't. Because as we've just demonstrated, crying is seen as a sign of weakness. It's seen as something that's more acceptable for women rather than men. So for that reason, I'd expect that people will hide that emotion and bury it away so nobody can see it. Most men wouldn't be caught crying in public, and even women will hide their tears away so they're not seen as being weak, possibly because they've conceded to that stereotype. Okay, so I'm just going to round it up very quickly. I'm just looking at this from a scientific perspective because I've looked at it based on what we all think, and then looked at it from actual research. I mean, I love doing my research. As if you've listened to me before, you know that. I've always got to refer back to research. But looking at research, what crying does is actually stimulates a hormone in us, which is called endorphin, which it's like a feel-good hormone that makes us feel happy and makes us feel good. What it also does is it reduces the amount, it's sort of a chemical called manganese in us, which, I mean, manganese is a chemical that makes you feel tired and stressed. So that confirms that actually crying makes us feel better. So it's actually not something that should be stigmatized, it's something that should be embraced and accepted. So when we cry, even though the problem still persists, once you've cried it, it is indubitable that it allows for a release of bad emotion and makes us feel better. And crying shouldn't be stigmatized. I'm just going to finish this, round this up very, very quickly. I've said that twice now. But when I say crying is acceptable, it mustn't be abused as well. You know, I'd loathe for one of my children to be sat here tonight listening to this speech. I dread to think what would happen when I got home tonight. They'd be crying over everything. It's like, Mommy, can I have cake and tea for dinner? No, you can't. But you said I can cry. No, that's abusing it. What I'm saying here is that I believe, in my opinion, that crying is a strength. It's not a weakness, it's something that we should do. It helps us to feel better, and then we move on, as long as we don't abuse it. Last question is, should body language, in terms of our body language, can we judge somebody's emotions through their body language? I don't think that we can, because basically some people can hide it and some others can't. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Roni. And I always like the way that in some of our speeches we're just made to think about things from a different angle. So thank you very much, Roni. Please could you fill out your forms to evaluate Roni's speech?